Hey everybody, Andrew Dorn here with Tech Savvy Agents and a couple of guests, Daniel Ramsey and Tristan. We're going to start in about 30 seconds here. If you have registered for Take Your Business to the Next Level by leveraging virtual assistants, you are in the right spot, and we're going to have some fun over the next 30 minutes. So we'll get started in about 20 seconds, just so everybody can join. All right, I think that's 20 seconds. Let's get started. So welcome to this webinar, first of its kind, done by Tech Savvy Agent. This webinar will be posted on Tech Savvy Agent. The link will be posted so you can actually share it with your fellow realtors or friends, or you can watch it yourself. We'll also put it on Tech Savvy Agent, which is on Facebook. Just go to Facebook and type in Tech Savvy Agent. I want to just make a couple things clear. Me and Daniel and Tristan want this to be interactive, so you should have a control panel in your screen, and there should be a questions link. And you can ask questions throughout the webinar. When I see questions that I think are awesome that will help all of you, I'm gonna put these guys on the spot and ask those questions. So that's one thing I wanted to share with you. Secondly, within 24 hours of this webinar, everyone will get an email link again to the slides of this webinar, and again a link of the audio and the visual will be posted on Tech Savvy Agent and Facebook. Other than that, I want to go ahead and introduce Daniel Ramsey, who's the co-owner, there he is right there, co-owner and founder of MyOutDesk. He's also a real estate broker, a general contractor, he's a busy guy, a developer, and he's actually providing virtual assistant services to over 1,100 clients. Daniel, want to say hello real quick?
Hi everyone, excited to be here.
Great, we're going to get a lot of information from Daniel today. And then Tristan Ahumada, he's actually founded Lab Coat Agents. If you guys haven't heard of that, go to Facebook and type in Lab Coat Agents under the search, and you'll see a great information resource, Tristan, available for free to realtors. If you want to learn about marketing tips, technology tips, and the like, definitely sign up for that and like that page. He was Real Estate Agent Rookie of the Year in 2002, and just this last year ranked top 3% of Keller Williams out of over 100,000 realtors and professionals, the top 3%. So he is crushing it. Tristan, say hello.
Hi guys, thanks for coming in.
So before we get into the few slides here, Daniel, why don't you just share a couple pieces of information about you starting MyOutDesk and why and all that.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm a real estate broker, and like everybody on this thing, you know, I had to hustle, and we were in real estate 2004, 5, and 6. I mean, if you guys remember, that market was insane and awesome. Yep. And then in 2007, it all crashed. It all just came like crashing down, and I had to kind of tool our office, and I needed help, but I couldn't afford like a physical assistant any longer. And so I hired my first virtual assistant in 2007. And then traveling around and meeting people like Tristan and Andrew, they were like, what are you doing? And I would tell them a little bit, and they'd just say, hey, could you get me one? And I was always like, yeah, sure, I'll help you out, I'll help you out. But eventually it just became bigger than that, and we started a business in 2008 around helping people outsource their real estate practice.
Well, you know what, Daniel, that brings a really good question to me is, when did you realize that you finally said, hey, look, I need a virtual assistant? What made it happen?
You know what? I can't even take credit for it. My brother and I were co-owners of the business, and he's like that. He was that kid in school that always had the cool stuff. He's like an early adopter kind of guy, and yeah, and he was telling me about his virtual assistant and how amazing it was, and then she actually designed some advertising for me and just did some marketing pieces. He's like, well, why don't you just borrow mine for a couple days? And this is in 2007. And after that, I was like, okay, get me one. And then my brother's like, hey, let's not tell anybody about this. This will be our secret weapon. And I was like, well, no, why don't we just tell everybody about this,
right,
and help the entire community?
That's awesome.
And so that's kind of what we're up to.
And Tristan, let me stop him right there and ask you, because not only have you grown your business leveraging technology in a big way, but at some point recently in the last year you realized, man, I've got to try out this virtual assistant. What was the kicker? What was the thing that said, you know what, I'm at least going to look into this? And I know now you're using MyOutDesk, but what was that point in time so people can relate to that?
Correct. Okay, so see, I have an internal sales agent already here in our office, and we were getting so many leads, like we still are, and we needed help. We needed help for somebody to come in, follow up by text, by email, and with phone calls eventually. So I thought, why not see what's out there? So before I tried MyOutDesk, I asked our coach, Tom Ferry coach, Dub Silberman over in New York, and I said, hey man, this is our current situation, what should we do? So he said, you know what, don't try anybody else, just go directly to the best in the industry, which is MyOutDesk. I go, well, what makes them the best? So, well, look, this is our track record. They train their people, and these are the agents that are using them across the nation. And when he started naming off people that are producing a lot more than I am, I was pretty convinced. I called a few of them, and they said, yeah, it's just great. I mean, one of the things that you do on the training, Daniel, I mean, go through, like, what do you do with a new virtual assistant you guys bring in for training?
These guys are trying to jump ahead of the slides. I love it. Let's.
You know what? Hey, show that slide while you're answering this, or yeah, because that'll really help.
Well, okay. So we're going to go into. I mean, so leverage. That's what we're talking about today. I'm just going to jump forward, right? And here's the big key, and here's the thing that I want everybody who's listening to understand. If you're doing non-productive dollar activity, you're basically saying I'm worth $8 an hour. Our folks literally are $8.60 an hour, so you can hire somebody and give them all of the tasks that aren't producing money, like everything like checking email, doing marketing stuff, doing advertising or any advertising stuff, any administrative
social media.
tasks. Yeah, social. There's just so much in real estate that is non-dollar productive, and so that's really what we're talking about today. And so the number two thing here is highly qualified individuals. Like the biggest question that everybody has is like, can these folks? Because all of our people are in the Philippines, so that's one thing that you need to know. Can these people actually communicate, and are they educated, and are they and what kind of training do you have? And so one thing that we really are very specific on is we only take the best of the best people in the Philippines to help us in the real estate world. And so that's a super, super important kind of thing. You know, we've got a lot of background noise. I don't know who that is. Let me just check here real quick. Most people are muted. It's interesting.
Maybe Cheryl can look into that.
Yeah. So one thing, and I have a slide, so I gotta get there because you guys are pushing me there.
Yes. Yeah, right here.
Right here. Okay, so only the proud few, and we'll hop around. So if you're on this thing, what do we do that is different? So we do an FBI grade background check. So our folks in the Philippines, actually, it's called NBI over there, but it's an FBI background check, and so then we're doing employment and education checks. So like if they went to this particular college and they got straight A's, we actually verify it with the school that they actually got that degree and those grades. We call their previous employers and say, hey, was this person awesome? We do a personality profile. We do reference checks. I mean, we actually will call all their references for our folks before they ever get to a client. And then this is kind of funny. We do a basic skill assessment. So there's an IQ test, and I scored really low. Imagine that. And so my scores, the baseline, like people below me, you know, they don't get on.
Awesome.
I know, it's really funny. But we're doing stuff like, can they professionally write an email, right? And so we'll give them 3 blog topics and ask them to write about it. And then people that don't have great writing skills, they don't get offered jobs. And so if you look at this slide, most people they're amazed by the fact that last year we had 29,000 people apply to work for our company over in the Philippines. Okay.
Wow.
Most people don't understand the kind of work it takes to sort through almost 30,000, applicants. And so we do initial interviews, then we do a final interview. And here's the big one. If you look at this 1822, we do what we call a 2-week audition. So in that audition, they're getting projects, they're required to write some blogs, they got to show up on time, for what Tristan's doing, the ISA, like calling people, we actually have them role playing and making calls out to clients in that 2 weeks.
What scripts are they using, Daniel, at Mike Ferry, Tom Ferry? What are they doing?
Yeah, dude, it's across the board. We actually, if you, and this is back, so you guys are having us jump around. I love that, but it's also kind of getting me crazy. So if you go to
we want you to stay on your feet, man.
Yeah. Well, it's working. MyOutDesk.com and then / keys, like keys of the house, KEYS.
Yep.
We're actually going to give away what we found are the best scripts and the best like overcoming objections for virtual assistants. And you can use Tom Ferry scripts. I mean, all the scripts are good. The one difference though, they're not licensed, so they're unlicensed. So you're not going to be like negotiating price over the phone. So you're just simply, our virtual assistants are simply calling and checking for interest in selling or buying. And when somebody says, yeah, I'm interested, that's when they pass it off to like Tristan's in-house person.
Debbie Rayleigh's asking you to repeat the website, so go ahead and repeat that, Daniel.
Sure. I'm actually going to go back here, so it's on our. It's actually in one of the slides.
And while you do that, Randall Harris, thank you for saying we're skipping some good slides. Don't worry, we're going to show you every slide. In fact, we probably should have already covered this as far as what you're going to learn today. We're going to share with you the top guy, Daniel, has over 1,000. I think it's almost 1,100 now, right? That
yeah.
Agents that are leveraging the virtual assistant services. So you're going to learn all the top ways they're using them, the percentages of how much administrative versus marketing versus phone calls, the benefits to agents, the benefits to brokers, best practices. So don't worry, Randall, we'll get it all. And then I'm urging you, we had hundreds and hundreds registered for this event, and I could see they're just joining by the minute here. Ask questions that you want to know. If they're good, I'm stopping these guys, and I'm going to make sure we ask your questions that you want to know. So as far as the website is myoutdesk.com /keys, like keys to a house.
Yeah, and so it's right here at the bottom of this slide. So we have over 1,000 agents who are leveraging our virtual assistants with over 1,100 virtual assistants placed. And so it's it gets confusing, but I mean, so we started this thing in 2008. We got our first client and had our first invoice in May of 2008. And so we're just really excited by the amount of growth and how much this has taken off. But here, if you're on this webinar today and you're saying, well, what could I have a virtual assistant do? This is kind of the summary slide for you. So administrative support, I want to go through that. 74% of our clients report that they're having their virtual assistant help them administratively. And we all know database management, that's a huge one. If you have people in your database, getting them in there and then hitting them all the time with emails and messages and just making sure the data is good. Another big one is transaction coordination, listing management, scheduling, and just general administrative stuff. I have a good friend, Aaron Armstrong. He's been using our virtual assistants for almost 5 years now.
Wow.
His virtual assistants actually check his emails. His work email is ran by a virtual assistant. His schedule ran by a virtual assistant. So of course he put systems and processes and train that person, but he has a private email. So if you email his company, his virtual assistant gets it. If it's about business and she can handle it, she handles it. If it needs to be forwarded on to somebody else so they can handle it, she does that. And then she only forwards like 5 or 10 emails a day on to her boss, our client. And so that's a huge help if you're a really super busy person.
Well, let me stop you right there. I mean, for a lot of you on the phone, I bet over 90% of you are doing whatever you can to delete as many emails as you can each morning so you can get on with your day. And to have someone do all of that stuff for you, press that button and get the crap out of there, the spam out of there, the emails that don't matter for your work, I just think for some of you that might be enough.
Yeah.
If you had that piece that's done, it might gain you, what, another 8 hours a week? I don't know. It depends on who you are and how crazy your email is, but I love you brought that up.
Well, and you know what's funny is checking email, no money. Adding people to your database, no money. Checking Facebook, no money. Talking to people, negotiating contracts, meeting new people and adding them to, actually doing face-to-face interaction. Like hiring more agents for your team, actually making calls yourself, like that's all dollar productive stuff. And so if you think about everything else that you have to do, I mean, think about a listing presentation. You go to a listing presentation, you have to, do all the paperwork, all the disclosures, create a listing presentation that's specific to that listing. You have to actually pull comps, look at the market. I mean, just getting prepped for a listing appointment could take an hour or two. Or you offload that to a virtual assistant, and it takes you 10 or 15 minutes to prep, and then you just get to show up. So there's a lot of opportunity in the admin space. Another area that I really enjoy is the marketing and social media stuff. I can't tell you how cool it is to do a single property website and have a virtual assistant do all of it and coordinate all of the services, and then throw that information on Facebook and start doing some advertisement around that. Hit your social media place, blog about the brand new property that you just sold. I mean, there's a lot of ways to drive traffic that a virtual assistant can handle for you.
Yep.
So that's
Daniel, I have another question here.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I was interviewing an agent, a luxury agent. He was saying that he first started with an assistant, but he shared it with 2 other agents to be able to afford it. Now, already at what? You guys are at $8.60, right?
Yeah.
So even at that, it's less expensive than hiring somebody here. But if you still need to split it with another agent or maybe another 2 agents because you just don't see yourself being able to take advantage of the whole 20 hours, it's still a huge, huge help to have somebody helping you with either a blog, returning emails, following up with leads. And I think it's a great start to delegate all of these things.
The reason, real quick, everybody, just want to make sure you understand the background here. The reason why Tristan said 20 hours is that's the part-time minimum. So you would have a virtual assistant for 20 hours a week as a part-time. And as you can see by what's on your screen, you all probably have a minimum of 20 hours of these 3 different titles of administrative report, marketing, social media services, and prospecting. All of you probably have a minimum of 20 hours right there. So that's why Daniel starts it at 20.
Yeah. So you know what the other thing is, like, and just to give you guys a frame of reference, 20 hours a week is $700-800 a month. So, and here's the mindset, right? If you're a busy real estate agent and you can offload some of the non-productive stuff and then actually go out and get 1 or 2 more listings or help 1 or 2 more people buy a home, it's just paid for. Super easy, super quick.
Nice.
$700-800. It's almost nothing. But to Tristan's point, we do have a ton of clients who are sharing because they both need administrative and marketing help and the tasks are similar and they're in the same market and they have a buddy and they're good friends and they don't feel like they're competitors. There's a ton of people who are doing exactly what Tristan said.
So how would the sharing thing work? If, let's say I came in and I say, hey, I want to share a virtual assistant. Who are you going to charge? Are you going to charge both of us or are you going to charge one person?
So one person has to sign our agreement. One person would have to own the agreement. But yeah, I mean, we would just charge one and you guys can work out the details of how that would all work. But yeah, it's totally possible. On the marketing side, I was kind of mentioning a good friend of mine just told me about this hellobond.com, and on the marketing, like sending thank you cards and nice to meet you and I appreciated your time, like nobody does that anymore, but there's an actual company out there where you can online type in your message and they actually will send like hand printed like thank you cards out, and it's called Hello Bond. So it's HELLOBOND.com, and I really love what they're doing because a virtual assistant can then take over your thank you cards, can take over your email marketing, can take over your social media, and all of a sudden like everything becomes very automated. Hey, I just met 2 new people today and I want to send them a thank you card because I had a connection and I think one of them is going to become a client, and I just want to keep in touch with those people. That's kind of, the big thing about hiring leverage and getting into that, keeping in touch with the people that you know and your sphere and everybody in your database, and just keeping that data kind of straight. That's a huge piece of building a real estate practice. So,
one of the things I have to add, Daniel, is when I was choosing the virtual assistant that I got through you guys,
yeah,
I was happy to hear that you guys were actually disc profiling them. The personality test, I thought that was huge because I needed somebody specifically to match what I was looking for. You know, a high I, somebody that loves to talk and is detail oriented too.
And loves people and loves people. That's the high I piece.
Yeah.
And I think it's a big deal. What we're trying, here's what we really are hyper focused on. We find really great clients. And so here's how you would describe, I mean, if you're considering using us, you know, hiring a virtual assistant through us, you know, typically you're a real estate agent at minimum doing, you know, a couple $100,000 a year in GCI, gross commission income, okay? You might have 1 or 2 employees, or you've had them in the past, and maybe you have a part-time assistant or something like that ups your level. And what's happening is you're just super busy. Right now we're going into the prime selling season. You know, April, May, June, July, August, like those 5 months, you know, 70-80% of all the deals are happening. And so you're just finding yourself super busy, and you just can't get enough. You know, you're working nights and evenings and weekends. Like those are the type of people that should be calling us or going to our website and kind of saying, hey, I want to talk more with you guys. And what we do then is we try to find great clients, and then we try to match them with previous history, like their previous experience, their personality profile, what they want. We're just trying to make good matches between clients and virtual assistants. That's our value prop to realtors out there. Is just we're here to help facilitate a great working relationship between, you know, your virtual assistant and a person like Tristan.
Okay, so I want to keep this interactive too. Maggie and Walter asked the same question. They were asking basically, Daniel, do I have to just use a virtual assistant for one of these 3, or can they do multiple of these 3? They had the same exact question.
That's a brilliant question. We get it all the time. Here's the thing. Like if you, and you see these percentages, if anybody can do basic math, that doesn't add up to 100%, right? 74 plus 56 plus 31. These percentages are what our clients, you know, after they've had a virtual assistant, report back to us that they have their virtual assistant doing. So some people will have some administrative stuff like creating transaction coordination, creating listing presentations, helping with buyers. That's another big piece on the admin side that I forgot to. If you're doing buyers, and let's just say, and this is something that I did when I was practicing and doing a lot of real estate myself. I'd be at a property with a buyer, and I'd call my virtual assistants up and say, hey, you know, 123 Main Street, we're going to make an offer on it. We want to, you know, we're going to write it for $350,000, all the normal standard terms. But on this one, we want to ask for a 3% credit, blah, blah, blah. And the virtual assistant will pull up the file, type in the offer, put it in DocuSign, and send it over to us right then and there so that the buyers can do all the signing right there on their mobile phone. And then your virtual assistant, because they already have the check, they already have the pre-approval letter, they already have everything in a file, waiting in a file of some sort. So the virtual assistant can then shoot it over to the listing agent, and then once it's done, the virtual assistant can actually text the client, you know, me or Tristan or whoever's doing the actual transaction, and say, hey, okay, now you can call Bob, the listing agent. His cell phone number is this. He already has the offer in his inbox. Go.
That's awesome. Well, you know what? I want to add something else there too, Daniel, because I've got a large team, and I find that the biggest challenge, not only with agents that are on the team, but other agents out there, is setting up the time to follow up with your current clients, your database, you know, whoever that may be. And I love the fact that I could just tell the VA, hey, look, VA, this agent hasn't followed up with their clients lately because I can see on the back end. Focus on their leads today. Follow up with them, email them, text them, call them, see how they're doing. That way, if somebody's slacking a little bit, she picks up the slack.
Yeah.
And she's calling up. So she's going to be working no matter what, and I love that. So if you're a single agent and you need help, say following up with your sphere while you're door knocking or while you're having an open house, this is perfect. She's going to be helping you. Go ahead, Andrew.
Awesome. No, that's great. That's real life of how you're using this. You know, I mean, so you have agents that just don't have the time or the the urgency to get in touch with their database, and now this VA can be all over it, texting, calling, emailing, adding value with different types of tools. That I know you have a lot of different tools that you offer So that's fantastic. Michael has a fantastic two-part question. His question is, what can't a VA do? And then the second part of that is, can they help with website enhancements?
Okay, so great question. A can't. Here's the easiest way. Anything that's physical. So opening, like, we have a bookkeeper in our office who opens our mail, and a virtual assistant can't help with that. But guess what? When he gets bills and when he gets stuff that needs to be handled, he scans them into just a scanner, and then our virtual assistant actually goes about setting them up in QuickBooks as an accounts payable or receivable, okay, and then going into our bank and actually paying those bills. So another piece that I don't know why it's not in here is I can't tell you how many agents I know who wait to the end of the year to figure out what's happening in their financial world. A virtual assistant, given the right setup, can have access to your bank account and in a no transaction kind of, that, like, they can't send money or pay bills or anything, but they can download it into QuickBooks and then actually do a P&L for you. Like, this is one of the underutilized kind of virtual assistant tasks, just keeping track of your finances, which is a huge deal.
Yeah, you know that realtors love doing that kind of work, so yeah, I'm sure they want to do you.
Well, it's a big deal, but I want to get back to Michael's two-part question. They can't do physical stuff. So if and they really shouldn't be like meeting one-on-one with your clients. I mean, that's not something you'd have an assistant do. They can't run and grab you a coffee. Like, I have dry cleaning in my office right now. They can't do that part.
So you're saying they can't fax over a coffee from the Philippines? It's not possible.
No. But funny enough, with the way here's what I want to help Michael and everybody on the call think about. If you have a transaction coordination system, one of my favorites is SkySlope. Another one that out there is .loop. There's Transaction Point. Top Producer. Like, all of those are like transaction processing systems with checklists built in and all that. So if you're a top producing agent and you want to work with a virtual assistant and have them do some transaction coordination, it's a great idea to have a system like that. And those systems aren't that expensive. You can get them for 10, 20, 30 bucks a month and have a virtual assistant work inside those systems. And then it becomes like, what can't they do is a much smaller category, right? Like, I'm working on a huge commercial deal right now, and I have some paper. Well, it's a big commercial deal, so I'm using paper. But if I wanted a virtual assistant to help me on that deal, I'd need to put it inside of our transaction coordination system or our CRM. So, like, there's some things that a VA can't do if you don't have the right systems. What was his other question, Andrew?
It was actually website enhancements. Like, can it do website enhancements work?
Yeah, it depends. So Tristans on Commissions Inc. And Commissions Inc. has a really easy blog kind of platform built into the back end where you can update your website and do some do some small changes. And if your website is built inside WordPress, we have tons of clients who are blogging, making just doing stuff inside your of that system, but you have to have some sort of a system. They're typically not going to program or do code.
But Daniel, can they create a themed WordPress out of just?
Yeah, for sure. Here's everybody that's wondering about the marketing piece. Here's how I love to do it. I'll be driving somebody somewhere, and on my recorder, I'll record, hey, I just read this article, and I wanted to comment on what's going on in my local. I'm in Sacramento, California, so in Sacramento, California, this development just got done, and it's a really cool place, and blah, 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 and this ad was in the Sacramento Bee, and I think it's a really good piece. Here's my thoughts around it, and here's some of the concerns that I would have if I was in that small community, and then I've just recorded it, and then I can send that off to our virtual assistant. They can pull the article from the Sacramento Bee because it's all online, right? It's easy accessible, and then they can Google more information about that actual project, and then they'll put together a blog post about that project in the neighborhood that I'm, like, kind of my farm neighborhood, and so
That's
now
an awesome way to leverage it. That's an awesome way to leverage this.
And so And a lot of times, the other thing is like people are worried, like, is their English going to be perfect? Or am I going to be able to text message with them? Can I email them? How do I pick up the phone?
Daniel, I had that big worry, so I'm going to go through that so I can show exactly what I went through. Before I was hiring, my biggest concern and why I didn't pull the trigger was, well, can they speak English? Right? Are they going to have a thick accent? Are they going to throw off my clients? Because some of them care.
Right.
And the best part about it is when I interviewed the virtual assistants, you gave me a choice of 3, or in some cases even 4, where I interviewed them through Skype, and we get to see them, we get to engage with them, we get to talk to them so that we can hear how they speak, we get to see if they're into the culture, and we kind of get a feel for them. I love that part. I chose the person right after that, right after the interview. Then line them up back to back to back, so they're not going to waste your time. It takes probably about 30 minutes.
I've got a couple great questions in the queue, but since we're at 4:30 now, so 4:30 Pacific, 7:30 East Coast, I know one thing, Tristan, everybody wants to know because you are using virtual assistants. How has it changed your world the most? What how has it changed your world?
All right, so this is a great question. Before it started, I just started using a virtual assistant. I think it was middle of February, beginning of February. That's when it was. And at that time, we had 12 transactions, and we weren't doing too bad right at the beginning of the year. Right now, we've got 27 in escrow. And it's because of the constant follow-up that our virtual assistant does along with our ISA, which is killer, man. It more than doubled it. And it's the constant communication that I know I can't do because I can only call a certain amount of people and so can our ISA. But once you have the third person on there, that's all they're doing. And they work hard, man. It's not like they're taking breaks and just chilling out, going on Twitter and Instagram. I mean, Daniel, how do you keep track of that? Their work, that they're actually doing work, because my virtual assistant is awesome.
Yeah, so we have an online, we call it Mod Clock, and Mod is MyOutDesk, so MOD, right? And we just have an online time tracker and kind of a screenshot and kind of a monitoring software that we know what's going on. And then we also ask for results, like how you doing, what's going on with your virtual assistant, and we ask the virtual assistant and we call and check in with Tristan. I mean, you're getting calls from our folks saying, Tristan, how's everything going? And you're going,
that's true.
Yeah. And our role is just putting the client and the virtual assistant together and making sure everything is good and smooth. And when there is a challenge, we just step in and help and support. Like that's why we're here and what we're building as part of it. I want to say one thing that Tristan touched on, and I want to kind of everybody who's listening. So Tristan went out, he has an inside sales agent, and he has a virtual assistant who is following up on leads, emailing, text messaging. What he's done is he's leveraging his seller piece of his business, like the sales, the amount of people and client touches and interaction, and he went from 12 in escrow to 27. And so you can kind of see it's almost a 3 times effect by just adding an additional person and another additional person. And so I really want to kind of focus on that because what Tristan is doing is he's creating predictive revenue. And in fact, our model is all about a blended kind of space where there's one physical person and a couple virtual assistants supporting that physical person and really crushing it. And it's not a 2 times, it should be a 3 or 4 times, like, get back. If you spend $1,000, you should be making $3,000 or $4,000, and obviously that's what's happened for Tristan.
Great. Let's go on with some more questions. We're 3 minutes over, so I got to remind everybody. Hey, you stay.
It's only 30 minutes though. I thought we were on for a whole hour.
No, it was a 30. It was a 30.
No,
Cheryl,
it's a whole hour.
Sure?
I think.
Oh man, if it is, then we're set.
I thought it was 4 hours. Is this 4 hours?
Well, because we have tons of questions. My bad. I did a webinar yesterday. It was 30 minutes, and it confused me. So, hey, stay on the line, everybody. You're all there. Let's ask George's question. Can an unlicensed virtual assistant do realtor sales calls?
So this is a great question, and it matters state by state. And here's something that I would say directly to you, George, and anybody else that's listening. I'm in California. if it's an inbound lead and you're avoiding things like negotiating price and anything that's public data you can have a conversation. But in the agent remarks, there's some in California anywhere, there's some instructions, and when you start talking about negotiating price or getting into what the agent-to-agent remarks are, then you're crossing into some gray areas. And then there's a difference between outbound unsolicited calls and inbound solicited calls. Like Tristan's using Commissions Inc. There's a ton of platforms out there. Realtor.com is a great one. People are raising their hand on that platform and saying, I have an interest in this particular property. So a virtual assistant can call that person and just walk them through, hey, I noticed that you were interested in 123 Main Street. Can you tell me, why you're interested in that particular area? And then you can walk them through, well, so when do you think you would like to, be in that area? Is there any other areas that you're thinking of? And great, and I hear that you're, I understand this house is $200,000. Is that what your lender approved you for? And so you're walking through. You're not necessarily negotiating a deal, but you're just testing their interest. And if a person, you walk them through that road and they say, I'd really like to see that house. Well, I'm only, I work for Tristan. I'm actually one of his assistants. He's the licensed realtor. I wonder if I can bring him on the line. Do you mind holding for just a second? And then you have a licensed person, an inside salesperson or a licensed realtor actually step in and then have the conversations about qualifying and actually closing the meeting, like getting together and actually seeing the house and writing an offer and doing all the agent work. But George's question is really legitimate. You have to be very careful not to cross a line. I wouldn't want to mislead anybody and say, and each state is different, New York, Texas, California, Montana. Like you really do have to pay attention to what you're allowed to say and who and when and all that kind of jazz. But, a lot of our clients are just simply making calls and inviting, the neighbors to an open house. This is a big way. Hey, I just want to let you know, Tristan has a listing on your street, this Thursday evening between 5 and 7. We're actually going to be holding it open. It's not yet on the market, and so we're just kind of showing all the neighbors. So if they have any friends or family who they would like to move into the neighborhood, that's the reason for my call today. And you just start having those kind of conversations. And there's a lot of power in that.
Daniel, can you tell me, can a virtual assistant call up a just sold property and say, hey, Tristan just sold a property on 123 Palm Street, and we're just letting all the neighbors know about it. Is that a normal call that you see?
Yeah. Just letting. So in that world, I'd want to have something to move forward. Tristan just sold a house at 123 Main Street. We know you're a neighbor. We're just kind of checking in and seeing, if you have a need, what are your plans with your home? Like you haven't crossed a boundary right there by just what are your plans with your home? Are you guys firmly in the neighborhood? By the way, Tristan sold that in 5 days for over $400,000. It's pretty amazing.
That as soon as we sell a home or as soon as we put up a home for sale, we can use our virtual assistant to call up a list of people around the home. Just get the list from Cole Realty Resource or Mojo, one of those, and then just have them dial. That'll take them about, an hour to do. You reach about 200 people.
Yeah. In fact, I think that's a really powerful, way to get your name out there. And, to George's point, I mean, you don't have to be licensed to invite somebody to check out a house that just sold in the neighborhood or is about to be on the market, and then ask the question, do you have any plans, what are your plans with your house? Yeah. And that's the kind of role that we're talking about. And the other piece is I always love, and that's why I kind of brought it up, that blended market, or that blended role where there's one physical licensed person and a bunch of virtual assistants. Because if you can call 500 to 1,000 people a day, you're going to find 5 or 10 people who have an interest in buying or selling, period. And to have a licensed person there who can then, close them over the phone, qualify them, and get them ready for a listing appointment, that's huge, But you don't need to have 3 licensed people doing the call at 20 or 30, or even splitting the deal. That's the other piece. Most agents, I have, if my licensed agent goes out and finds a deal, then I have to do a split with them. With a virtual assistant, you're paying them an hourly rate. So, the broker in this case, or the agent, Tristan, gets 100% of the deal because it's his employee. So, anyways,
one of the things I'm noticing, Daniel, is just because you've been in this business since 2008. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really showing. I mean, you've dealt with a lot of these questions over and over from top realtors, including Tristan Almada here is on the webinar. But obviously, you've been around the block, and that way,
Andrew,
if you use a company like
clarify.
reinventing the wheel over and over again.
Yeah, let me clarify. I've done this myself as a real estate. So not only have I helped, over 1,000 people, like I've built a real estate practice with virtual assistants doing exactly these tasks. And so, and I'm really passionate about it, and you can hear it. Like, we want to provide like value, and we want to change the industry, and I believe this blended strategy is the right way for realtors to move forward, and that's why we're providing so many free tools at that website. So if you go to myoutdesk.com/keys, like KEYS, like keys of the house, I mean, we're giving you some really value. Everything that I'm talking about, we're giving you like job description, a 90-day launch, which is huge. Like, what is a person who's new as a marketing virtual assistant going to do in the first 90 days for me as an agent? And I've never had a marketing assistant before. That's a big value proposition that we're just giving out for free. So whether you use us or you don't, have that stuff ready so that when you're ready, you can just save it to a file and you're ready to rock and roll.
Based on some of the questions, Tristan and Daniel, I'm noticing that people kind of want to know how they would go about, I mean, we have another 20 minutes, don't worry everybody on the call, but how would they go about easily finding out more or signing up? Just take care of that right now, because I can just tell I can feel a lot of people are wondering, okay, how do I figure out if it's right for me?
Sure. So here's the good news. Like, so we have real estate licensee people in my office right now. If I picked up this laptop and walked around, you can talk to 6 different folks in my office who all they do all day long, just like me, is help you individualize your 90-day plan and your job description for your virtual assistant. So it's a service that we offer completely free. So if you go to the website, we'll ask you to sign up, and in that and at that sign up, what it entitles you to is job descriptions, a 90-day launch, like scripts, which are huge, objection handling stuff. I mean, we're going to give you.
What's the website we go to?
So myoutdesk.com/KEYS, and we're going to
send. Okay.
Yeah, and we're going to send out, and you can just, in fact, you can just go to our website and register for a free consultation. I mean, that's a big deal, and so we'll spend an hour or 2 with you, and we'll develop your unique job description and your unique need in this space. Like some people, like somebody asked, can I do some of some and some of the other, and what about half and half, and what about, we'll create a job description that makes sense for you and gets you the maximum return on your investment, because that's what we're all about. It's got to make financial sense for you, and our world is, helping as many people as we can and making long-term relationships with those folks.
It sounds like each one is customized to their needs, which is going to be different for each realtor. I've got a question for you, Tristan. This is a great question from Kevin. Kevin Hall, thank you. How much of your time is spent managing your VA, managing your virtual assistant? Great question.
All right, that's a great question. I think about 5 minutes a week. That's about it.
Yeah, but Tristan is a cool guy. How about somebody on your staff? How much? Because you do have an ISA that the VA works with, right?
You're looking at our ISA who manages. Her name is Jane, my virtual assistant. He's probably texting her throughout the day, probably a total of about 10 to 15 minutes total, including some conversations. Now, initially, you also have to take into consideration, you're the one training her with certain scripts that you want for her to call or for him to call your past clients, your sphere, because everybody's different, right? So at the beginning, it did take a lot of training on our part for what we wanted her to do, what we wanted her to say, text, email. So that does take a little bit of time to build, but once it's there, I mean, Jacob's our ISA. He's literally only spending about 10, 15 minutes tops in a day, just saying, hey, how's your morning? All right, And she's the one reporting back to us at the beginning. At the beginning of her day, she sends out an email, says, hey, this is what I'm going to work on. At the end of the day, she's like, this is what I worked on. And I'm like, whoa. I mean, half the time, don't get me wrong, half the time I don't even read what she did. I just kind of trust it because I know the system's in place to protect me. So, but it's a beautiful thing, man. And I have to thank Daniel, too.
That's a great answer. I did not expect that, Tristan, but you do have amazing systems. So obviously that's going to vary a little bit, but to have that little time spent managing is amazing. This is more of a question for you, Daniel. What are the security concerns? I know you've had this come up. What are the security concerns on giving VA access to your financial information and client information?
Yeah, so that's good. That's a good question. I also want to go back to the time management because Tristan is a unique dude, and so in the beginning, I mentioned a 90-day launch, right? And so when you customize that to your my big world is Dr. Google and Dr. YouTube and Professor Google. Like whenever you have an employee, I'm like, I know it's crazy, but whenever you have an employee who comes to you with an answer and it can be found on YouTube, I just like YouTube, or just Google that. Like, how do I customize the website so that I can add blah, blah, blah. I'm like, that's a YouTube question. That's not a Daniel question. That's a YouTube. So your 90-day launch is very systematic about what you want your virtual assistant to do for you. So if you're doing marketing, then you're going to have a bunch of training around that marketing, and then you're going to have conversations about it. So not to Kevin's question, I mean, the upfront work, there's a little bit of work, but over time, the amount of work goes down to where Tristan is, and then the value goes up. Right? So there is that nexus that crosses. And so I just want to kind of nail that time management thing. And then the security. So I didn't start out giving my virtual assistants credit card access and bank statement access and all that kind of jazz. But there are some unique things. Like I use Chase. That's the bank that's prevalent out here in California. And you can actually give somebody a non financial access to your bank, so they can see what's happening and they can see who, but they can't see, account number and routing numbers. Like, it's just not possible for them to see that. So you can then download that into QuickBooks and reconcile, and that's an easy thing. And then credit card wise, what's cool about the Philippines is if they use a credit card over there to buy something, like Chase and Bank of America and all these large corporations, they just shut it down. They're like, that guy. In fact, I went to Canada for my family cousin wedding, and I went to buy something, and I got a text message from Chase and says, "Are you in Canada?" And so I'm like, how does Chase know? And so there's a lot of controls that the banks put on using credit cards already. But my answer is, don't give them the keys to the kingdom day one. Build some trust with them, and over time you can give them more and more.
Great point. Did you have something to say, Tristan? If not, I have another question.
No, go ahead, man.
Okay. Yeah, we're hooking these people up. So thanks again, Daniel. That's a great answer. Andreas Coleman asks a real-life question, like something's going to happen for everybody. Do you have to train your virtual assistant on what to do, or do they already know how to do it? For example, if you have, do you have like template procedures for transaction management that you can customize? Do they already have scripts for inbound, outbound calls? See what I'm saying? There's a couple examples.
Yeah. So here's the challenge. We have a transaction coordination class. It's actually it's almost 2 days, but we based it on California. So I'm in California, so we have the California contracts. I have, copies of the escrow and title. But if you're in New York or Texas, everything's kind of different. And so we do a very basic, what we call like a 2-week boot camp. It's intensive. We throw a lot of projects. We give them high-level stuff. But it's up to the client to individualize their training and kind of put them through, like SkySlope or Dotloop, for instance. You can get all the checklists you ever wanted by just going to YouTube or Google and saying, checklist for realtor transaction coordination, or you can go into Facebook and into the .loop little Facebook group and say, hey, does anybody have a great checklist? And then you can just kind of organize around that. And really, I can't set up the same system and have everyone adopt it. Nobody would ever do that. But we can give you some frameworks, and we can try to tell you what we do in California and provide support and give you some avenues. Does that make sense, Andrew? I hope I'm making sense.
Well, yeah, it actually does. Or they could just go on to Lab Code Agents or Lead Gen Scripts, one of those two, and there's plenty of stuff they could download there for free, man. Like
the thing,
huge list.
You know, the thing about that page too, the MyOutDesk.com with the / keys, is there's just one example of scripts, and it's not even about scripts. And now we're on the prospecting and lead call support, and I want to tell you what's important about that piece. Okay, so if you have a virtual assistant making prospecting calls, calling out for buyers, calling out for sellers, getting inbound calls for signs, you know, another great place is just to have a virtual assistant answer all the sign calls and set appointments for your buyer's agents. Buyer's agents hardly ever pick up the phone because they're out doing what they got to do. Listing agents are in you know, doing presentations all the time. So that's another piece that a virtual assistant can help. But what's important on that is just creating the system that records the calls and records the activities. So when I have a person who's on the phone, I want to know how many hours of talk time every single day did they have. Because somebody once said that real estate is a belly-to-belly sport. It's a contact sport. You got to be in front of people. And sure. I just love that analogy. So when you're prospecting, the way you know is how much talk time. So if there's one virtual assistant who's doing an hour of talk time versus somebody else who's doing 5 or 6 hours of talk time, that 5 or 6 hours of talk time is literally 500% or 600% more productive than the other guy. And guess what? You're going to see that in their results. So the challenge that people have is just they look at the results, but sometimes you need to look at the activities, and you do that through a system of knowing how many hours of talk time.
Yeah, you know what's funny?
Go ahead.
My coach, Dov Silverman's on this, and he's saying that you hit it right on. So.
And by the way, you answered Andre's question. He responded. He said, yes, thank you, with a thumbs up. So great job on that. Hey, before we go on to more questions, Daniel, are there any other key slides that you want to show? Because there's a few asking.
Yeah, let me just go.
And I'll have a question ready for you after you show them.
Yeah, so let me just go. I want to go through this one because we kind of touched on it, but again, like, here's the process. So a ton of people are wondering, like, what's next steps? How do I find out if I'm a right fit? How do I find out if I get a return on investment? So this is what we do for the virtual assistants to get them ready. Now for our clients, here's what we do on the client side. So we'll do a 1-hour consultation. Just go to our website and register and say, yes, I want it. It's free. No harm, no foul. We'll give you a ton of value. If you don't want to sign up, that's not a big deal. We won't bug you. We actually care and we want to help people. Like, our salespeople really aren't, they're consultants or coaches. Like, I coach them to help and not really worry about closing the deal because we want long-term clients. So sign up for a consultation. We then create your job description, and then we have a setup fee. So our setup fee to do all of this, so you know, to have 29,000 people apply and then sort that down to 702 who are endorsed to clients, like, that's a big process of getting rid of the folks that aren't going to be great. And so we do all that, and the setup fee is $495. There's a huge discount if you mention Lab Code Agents or Tech Savvy. We're giving you $125 off that setup fee, and this is a real cost. This is a real cost for us, guys. We do an MBI, which is FBI grade background check. We're doing reference checks. We're doing personality profiles. Like, those things all cost, and then we do a 2-week training. So once you pay the setup fee, get your job description, and go through a consultation, the next step in that is you actually get profiles. Tristan kind of touched on it. Here's the key to that, though. Spend a lot of time with the virtual assistant making sure that they're a good fit. like interview them, truly interview them. And if you need help, like figuring out what questions to ask and what things to say, we'll even give you a list of great questions. We'll give you like our favorite questions to ask. I mean, somebody was going to ask something.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Okay.
Why don't you finish it up? I have a great question for you after you're done.
Okay. Well, and so like here's one of my, and if you're, write this down. This is my favorite interview question. Who are the 3 people that you most like, admire, and respect? Like, that's just a simple conversations, and why? Like, and tell them it can't be mom and dad or family member. They got to be real people in your life. And just by asking great, probing questions, you can find out like the mentality of a person, their work ethic, their family situation, like what's going on in their world, and hope to make a better connection and a better fit for your company. So the big thing there is just spend a lot of time, spend the whole 30 minutes to an hour interviewing them, and when you get a great one, grab them quick because, how many people? So this month we've added 107 virtual assistants to in just 1 month. So we got a lot of folks coming through, and it's actually a challenge for our salespeople right now.
That's a crazy amount, dude.
I know.
Well, it's over 3 a day. It's over 3 a day.
Yeah. Well, we're going. So by the end of the year, we'll be a little under 2,000 virtual assistants.
I have a question about that. So how many agents have joined since January 1st nationwide?
More 300 or 400.
Oh my gosh, dude!
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Do you have something more to say on that topic? Because I have a question that was asked twice.
Well,
shoot the question.
Question's
Okay.
better.
Couple questions. 2 people on the call, Philip and one other one. I forget the name. They both have Top Producer. How can they help with Top Producer and getting those letters out, those templates out, those follow-up emails? How can they help with that?
Oh my God, that's the best initial use for a virtual assistant. Your database. Okay, listen, guys. If you're on this, there's 2 ways to really make money in real estate, to really truly make money. One is by owning it, and the other is by creating a repeat and referral business. So the only way you have a repeat and referral business is by growing a massive database of clients who they actually know, respect, and refer you business. Like when you own a real estate firm, there's nothing to sell except for your database. And so like your first employee ought to be a database like Top Producer, and then your second employee ought to be a virtual assistant to help build that database and constantly send out the market snapshots, some interesting information, and just kind of touch on your clients on a regular, systematic way.
Well, Daniel, can I have my virtual assistant create content so that they have a drip campaign? Like if I want to do a 33 touch, I'm just like, hey, virtual assistant, I need a 33 touch for first-time home buyer.
You know what? It's great is Tristan, you don't even have to create it. Like the California Association of Realtors, they have like all the data that you ever want, all the blog topics that you ever want. The other thing, Top Producer, guess what? There's embedded content you can then just customize. So there's so many resources out there. 3, have something that's about your local area. Here's another great like little nugget of fun. And I do this nugget of fun. One of our clients actually had. I know. One of our clients actually has a farm area, and what he does in that farm area is he has a calendar of events within Facebook, and he has a virtual assistant go out to all the different information sites and pull all of the things that are going on for that particular community in one Facebook page, and then he puts a calendar of events so that when there's a music festival coming up, when there's like a, the new thing is the food in the truck, like I forget, what are those called, like the Truckorama. In Sacramento we have these like food trucks that just line up and hundreds of people go to the park, and like he advertises those events in a Facebook group, and then he does an email blast out to his database that live in that particular area because that's his farm. That's where he wants to go. So he door knocks and he does Facebook marketing and he does email blasts about what's going on, and he's just using he's using a virtual assistant to have a systematic approach to keeping in contact with his clients and sphere of information or sphere of influence.
Okay, with 1 minute to go, Michael comes through with another question. I think a lot of people are wondering, can my virtual assistant have access to the MLS?
Yes. Each area is different. In California, I hope that none of the people who regulate that is on this call, but I just give them my login and they go into MLS and do all the work. In Alaska, like there's a signature thing, an unlicensed assistant, in New York and Jersey. So the answer is yes. If you're like in San Diego, and I think where you are, Tristan, they actually do IP tracking. So if there's somebody outside of the country logging on, they'll like give you a little bit of a hey, don't do that again. So okay. in that instance, you just use a log me in, and you have a dedicated computer, and they jump on a log me in, and they input listings, and they do all the work that you have to do. I mean, that's another huge one. I mean, when you have a listing, just getting the photos uploaded in the right order, writing all the marketing materials, writing all the collateral, getting all the things uploaded, that's a huge time suck. It could take you 3-4 hours to do it right, or you hire a virtual assistant at $8 an hour, and they do it for you.
You know what? That's a great point.
Okay.
I think I've been talking to a lot of agents that are newer. They've only been in the business for, say, a few months or even a year. And I say if you've been in it for a little bit, you definitely need two things, which is get your database going, right? A lot of people don't know what the hell to do with a database. So then just hire a virtual assistant that you share with another agent and have the first thing that they do, bring in all your Google contacts, all your Facebook contacts, everything, and throw them onto the database. Throw them onto Top Producer. I mean, Andrew, how much is a Top Producer account? It's like $29, right?
Yeah, it's like 30-something bucks a month.
Yeah, $29.
In fact, if the two things that we're talking about as far as Top Producer and Market Snapshot that Daniel and Tristan mentioned, if anybody wants to learn more about Top Producer or Market Snapshot, because some people are saying what website to go, just enter your phone number in the question box and I'll have someone call you. I don't want to spend any more time on that, but if you want to enter your phone number, go ahead. Okay, 3 people asked this, Daniel. 3 people asked this. How about the time difference in the Philippines? What if you need someone right away at a certain time and the hours are wrong? How does that work?
Here's what's cool. They work our time. So they work 8 to 5 your time, whether it's Pacific Standard, Eastern. I mean, we have clients up in Canada. So whatever time zone you're in, they just match it. And they're like, what's crazy, and Tristan's probably experienced this, is when you get somebody and you make a great connection and everything works and they have a good first 90 days and they're really helping out and like everything's jiving, like they want to help you. And so if you need something, you just text them with your cell phone and say, hey man, I need your help with X, Y, and Z. And if they're awake and available, they're like any other really dedicated employee who really cares about your business. They'll just freaking do it.
Great. Another question that came up a few times is that in some cases are they, this came from Philip, are they English and fluent in Spanish in some cases if someone works a bilingual market?
So, what's crazy is they were the U.S. Okay, so there's a couple things. One, why the Philippines? The Philippines because 89% of them are Catholic, and back in the early 1900s we freed them from Spain, or no, it was early 1800s or something like that. And so Spain ruled them for 400 years. The U.S. came in and actually freed them, and then we liberated them again from Japan in World War II. And so they have a really good connection culturally with the U.S. So that's a positive thing. And wait, what was the question, Andrew? I'm missing it now.
Are some virtual assistants fluent in English and Spanish?
Spanish. That's where we were going. Although they were ruled for 400 years by Spain, Spanish isn't widely spoken. And so we've had requests for French and Spanish, and unfortunately that's just not a piece that we're,
okay.
And we wish we were, because if we were like LA agents and Arizona and Texas.
But you know what? They speak English.
Yeah, they do. Perfectly, actually. So
that's the best part, man. They speak English, and occasionally, they come across a Filipino person. Boom, you lock them in.
Nice.
yeah.
Beautiful.
So this is a big value prop here. $32 is the average wage in the U.S. Ours, $6.80.
This is a great slide. This is a fantastic slide right here.
And we have a part-time option and a full-time option. So if you only need 20 hours, that's it. If you only need 40 hours, that's enough. That's also possible. And the $9 versus the $8, sometimes we get applicants who are just really super qualified, like amazingly qualified, and they've led other people and they're into building teams. So we pay them the higher rate, and so that's why there's two different rates there.
Okay, we've gone 5 minutes over, so I just want to let everybody know that it's optional from here on out, but we're going to stay on as long as there's good questions. And if you guys want to write in the question box thanking Tristan and Daniel, I would. I mean, they're definitely giving some great information here.
What if we want to thank you, Andrew? What do we do then?
Then you,
Joking, dude.
yeah, you just hold it inside. The next question is, if I start with a part-time virtual assistant, increase it to a full-time, can they increase it to a full-time when they need it?
Yes and no. So if you come in and you say, look, I'm not super busy, I want to hire somebody for 20 hours, and then 3 months later you're like, okay, I'm ready for full-time, the chances are that we're going to give you 20 hours and then we're going to give somebody else 20 hours and somebody else in a different market, so they're not competing. But unfortunately, know what you need now, and that's why you do the 1 hour consultation with us, because know what you need now, and then at some point in the future, when you have bigger needs, then we'll come back and we'll help. And it might be another full-time person, or just another part-time person, but we'll figure it out.
Okay, before I get to Cindy's question, which is awesome question, Cindy, we'll answer in a second. Several people said, what are the websites again? So again, myoutdesk.com/keys, Keys. Then as you can see on Facebook, just search for Lab Coat Agents, LAB Coat Agents, and then TechSavvyAgent.com for Tech Savvy. I'll give you one more for Tech Savvy if you want to attend our free webinars or our live events, TechSavvyLive.com. That's with 2 V's, Tech, SAVVY, live.com. And then last but not least, as far as Market Snapshot and Top Producer, as I said before, just enter your phone number and a representative will call you. Okay, Cindy, your question. How much money do you think a realtor should be making when they get a virtual assistant? So what's that level where it's ding, 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 it's time to think about one?
Yeah. Okay, so first of all, under 100,000, you should project outsource. There's a couple companies out there called like Fiverr, which they'll do marketing pieces for you. There's a couple other companies out there like the HelloBond.com that'll automate the way you send thank you cards, so it's quick. When you're doing under 100,000, you really need to just focus on getting more clients. And so our sweet spot for helping folks are those that are like doing typically like $250,000, 200,000, somewhere like that in sales. They've toyed with a part-time assistant and they're ready to kind of blow up their world. And those are kind of the measures for success typically, and when you should be.
Well, you know what? I have to add something on that, man, because I was interviewing 2 weeks ago. We interviewed, like I said, a luxury agent. He said if he could go back and restart this whole thing, he would get an assistant as fast as possible, because he would have gotten to where he wants to be quicker. And I said, well, how is that possible if you're only making $50K a year as an agent? He said, well, pick up 2 other agents that need the same thing you do and just share it. Because if you're making $50K and you split somebody that's part-time, right, that's still, dude, that's like nothing a year. That's less than $4,000 a year.
But the good part about that is make sure that what they're going to do is actually going to provide value for you. So that's the piece. If you're a brand new agent, that's probably building your database, determining your farm, like getting you in front of more people, doing some Facebook, ads and maybe some social media stuff. So, and maybe checking your email and all that kind of stuff. But be very specific about your return on investment when you're a newer agent or have a lower revenue.
Yeah, if you're just starting off or you have a lower revenue, if you're splitting this with 2 other agents or just another one, the number one thing is put them to work to increase your database, and then separate it. Facebook group, people you've met door knocking, people you met cold calling, whatever it is you're doing. As soon as you get a listing or somebody that allows you to call a listing around a neighborhood, you can have them call, just list it. Hey, look, the office just listed a property. We just wanted to let you know that it just went up on the market.
Yeah, agreed.
Richard, Michael, Murray, they're all saying great job. They love your stuff, guys. So giving you props right there.
Cool.
And then we had another same people asking the same question over and over. What are the startup fees, contracts? What is it with signing up for MyOutDesk?
Great question. I hate contracts. I'm a real estate broker, and I hate being held to the fire. And what we do is we don't have like an annual contract that renews or any of that, but we do have a 90-day commitment period. So when you sign up, it's $495. That's our standard like setup fee. It covers us hiring the people, training them, doing all the background and research on them, and then helping make the connection. And so it's $495. But if you mention lab coat agents or tech savvy agents, we're actually giving you $125 off your setup fee. So you got to remember to do that when you're talking with us, to mention those things, and the $125 off the setup fee. But when you start, you have a 90-day commitment. So, and what we know is 90 days is the amount of time it takes to take a virtual assistant from zero to amazing and really kicking butt. Tristan, was that your experience? Like, how quickly?
Oh yeah, totally. I saw it quicker. I definitely saw it quicker because we already had the plan already outlined because we have an ISA. So what we said, look, this is exactly what we need you for, and we immediately saw the return because she was emailing, texting us, hey, look, I've got somebody that wants to see a home. Oh, I've got somebody that wants to get pre-approved. Oh, I've got. So the list just kept on going and going because we had the system in place.
Right. Yeah, that's perfect. What other questions? And guys, we're going to send out a replay tomorrow with a link to our websites, this entire thing. So if you missed any or you're coming in late, you're going to get it again.
So we definitely answered the questions except this last one, actually. So the question is from, you guys are doing an awesome job getting these answers. Kathleen, she asked, would it work to share an assistant with an agent in a different state or region out of my state? Is it okay if the agent's sharing you some different systems, if they have different systems?
Yeah. I mean, it's better if you have them doing, similar stuff. So we have, those 3 different major like functional jobs. So we're going to try to find another functional match. And we just, we're not going to try to put a competitor and you together and with the same VA. That's the only criteria for us.
Right.
But for you, share. Like if you got a friend or somebody that you trust, that's even better. If not, we'll facilitate just the 20 hours thing. But if it's less than 20, you have to facilitate it. So that's a big key here to that question is we're going to facilitate 20 hours or 40 hours, but if you only want 10, you got to find somebody else, and you've got to sign up, and it's your person that is on the hook for that. So there's just, there's some conditions if you're going less than 20.
Well, now that we're 13 minutes over, I just want to personally thank you, Tristan and Daniel. There's the websites right there, myoutdesk.com/keys. Go to Facebook, type in Lab Code Agents. Make sure you like that site and follow that site, as well as techsavvyagent.com, as well as Facebook Tech Savvy Agent. There is one more question, though, if you guys are willing. Are you ready?
Go.
Yep.
So the minimum is 20 hours hiring a part-timer. What are the other packages?
Just full-time. I mean, think of us, everybody who's listening right now, think of us like a real estate-specific staffing firm. That's what we do. We help people who need leverage, and they're normal people. They want to work, Monday through Friday typically. We do have some clients who have, like on the call stuff, we have some clients that are, like 1 o'clock in the afternoon until 5 or 6 o'clock at night, just because they want to, catch that prime calling time. But, they're normal folks, great English, they care, they work hard. I mean, I just can't communicate enough how much this changed my business, and I've just seen it change, hundreds of real estate agents across the country, how their trajectory, it just changes what they're up to, as Tristan kind of attested to. So if you're thinking about trying, just give us a call, jump on our website. We'll do a free consultation, and it's a pretty killer deal.
Randy, Pat, and Walter just gave huge thank yous. I want to thank you guys again. What great content! This is going to be posted on TechSavvyAgent.com. On the it's going to you can watch this again and hear the audio. So thanks for joining, and remember to go to TechSavvyLive.com to look for more webinars on all sorts of topics, from social media to converting online leads to all sorts of topics at TechSavvyLive.com. Anything to add, Tristan and Daniel? Thanks a lot.
I'm just thankful that you guys put it together, so awesome.
Yeah, this has been fun, guys.
And one more thing, Tech Savvy Agent is planning on doing something like this each and every month, so a different type of guest. Maybe next time it'll be a top producer leveraging technology to the fullest. It might be, for example. So we're going to continue to post that information on Tech Savvy Agent. Thanks again for your time, everybody. You guys all stayed on the call. Have a great rest of the week and weekend.
Have a good night, guys.
Take care, everybody.
Hi, Joe here with MyOutDesk. I hope you enjoyed this video clip, and before you go, I want to give you this free tool that our clients, other agents just like yourself, and our virtual assistants use every day. It's designed to improve productivity. You can use it to keep yourself on track or simply hand it off to your virtual assistant, allowing you to focus on doing what you do best. That's right, selling real estate. Spend your time on commission-generating activities only. Allow your virtual assistant to do the rest. So grab your free checklist right now.